Caught dressing as a girl by my parents. My name is Ethan, and I'm just your average 17-year-old high school senior. On the outside, I'm a guy who keeps to himself, stays out of trouble, and does all right in school. I don't stand out, nor do I try to. I've got a small group of friends and a passion for art that no one really knows about. But underneath the surface, I carry a secret, one that's a part of me but feels like it doesn't belong in the world I'm in. I love wearing feminine clothes. It's something I can't explain, not even to myself. It's not just a hobby or a phase, it's part of who I am, and I've kept it locked away for years. It all started when I was 13. My sister Emma was away at a friend's house, and I took my chance to sneak into her room. The feel of her clothes, soft dresses, silky blouses, was something I couldn't shake. Over time, I began to build my own secret collection, hidden deep in the back of my closet. A blouse here, a pair of heels there. Every piece was a tiny rebellion against the version of myself that the world expected me to be. But it wasn't until one Saturday afternoon that my carefully constructed world came crashing down. My parents had gone away for the weekend, and Emma was supposed to be out. The house was empty, no interruptions, no prying eyes. I could be me, even if just for a few hours. I dressed in a soft floral dress, paired it with makeup I'd spent years learning to apply. For once, I felt beautiful, comfortable, like the person I was meant to be. It was pure bliss. But that bliss was short-lived. Mid-spin in front of the mirror, I heard the front door creak open. My heart stopped. Ethan's? My mom's voice echoed through the house, sharper than I expected. Panic hit me like a freight train. I was caught. There was no time to hide, no way to change fast enough. My body froze, my mind scrambling for a way out that didn't exist. My worst fear was coming true. I was about to be exposed. The footsteps grew louder, closer. My body tensed, and my breath quickened. I thought about running, locking the door, or just disappearing. But none of those options would work. A voice inside whispered that maybe it was time. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. But that thought was quickly buried by a flood of fear. What if she didn't understand? What if she was disgusted? I could already hear her voice, the confusion, the disappointment. My dad's stern face flashing in my mind made everything feel even worse. What if they rejected me? And yet another voice, quieter and more dangerous, crept in. What if they do understand? What if they accept me? The thought was both terrifying and freeing. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. I could feel my pulse in my throat, the air thick with the impending confrontation. I held my breath, straining to listen. Ethan? Are you in there? My mom's voice was gentle now, but the concern was unmistakable. What do I do? The question pounded in my head as I scrambled to find the right words. I wanted to hide, but I didn't know how. My hand hovered over the doorknob, caught between slamming it shut and opening it to face whatever would come next. Ethan's? Her voice cracked, no longer soft but edged with worry. Are you okay in there? You've been in there for a while. My throat was dry, my voice barely a whisper.
Yeah, Mom.
I'm fine. Just give me a second to figure out how to explain this. A second to decide if I should just let it all come crashing down. I glanced around my room, at the pile of jeans and shirts on my bed. I could change fast, pretend this never happened. But then my eyes landed on the mirror. The reflection staring back at me wasn't the boy I usually saw, awkward and unsure. No, the person in the mirror was confident, free. For the first time in forever, I felt like I was really seeing myself. The knock on the door shattered my thoughts. Ethan, what's going on? My mom's voice was insistent now. If you don't answer, I'm coming in. My chest tightened, panic rising like a wave. This was it. There was no turning back. I grabbed my phone, texting my friend Mia in desperation. Me. She's about to come in. What do I do? Mia. Just breathe. Maybe this is the chance you've been waiting for. Me. I'm not ready. What if she freaks out? Mia. What if she doesn't? What if she understands? Her words hit me like a lifeline. I wasn't sure if I could believe them, but they made me feel less alone. The door creaked as the knob turned. I stood there, frozen, as my mom stepped inside. The world seemed to stop as her eyes found me, taking in the sight of her son in a dress, with makeup that wasn't just a mistake, it was deliberate. Her gaze was a mix of confusion, surprise, and something softer, something I couldn't read. For a moment, the world stood still. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. "Ethan," she whispered. "What's going on here?" I couldn't find my voice. How could I explain this? How could I make her understand why I was standing there, dressed in something that had always been mine, something I couldn't hide anymore? Mom stepped inside, closing the door gently behind her. "Talk to me, Ethan." And for the first time, I realized I didn't have to hide anymore. Her voice wasn't harsh, but there was a steadiness to it, the kind of calm that only comes when someone is determined to hear the truth, however difficult it might be to share. I felt my fingers nervously tracing the hem of the dress, the soft fabric, a comfort I didn't know I needed until now. I was at a tipping point. I could easily play it off as a mistake, a weird phase that would be dismissed with a laugh. But that would be denying a part of me that had been buried for so long. I thought about the reflection I had just seen, the girl in the mirror who seemed to glow with a kind of quiet confidence I never let myself feel before. If I lied now, I'd have to hide her again. And that thought felt almost like betrayal. The decision weighed on me as I stood there, the air thick with uncertainty. If I was honest, there would be no turning back. Mom might be confused, or even upset. But wasn't this what I'd been waiting for? This chance to stop pretending, to let go of the secret I had carried alone for years? I have to tell you something, I finally said, my voice barely rising above a whisper. Her expression softened immediately, and she sat on the edge of my bed, giving me space to gather myself. With a trembling sigh, I spoke. The words spilled out in a rush, how it started with the secret thrills of trying on Emma's clothes, the quiet joy I found in the softness of fabric and the unfamiliar feeling of becoming someone else. How it was never just about the clothes, it was about discovering a piece of me I didn't yet understand, but needed to express. Mom's eyes stayed fixed on me, listening without interrupting. I braced for anger, for scolding that would make everything feel like a mistake. But when I finished, she surprised me. Gently, she took my hands in hers, her grip warm and steady. "I never knew," she said softly, her words carrying a weight of empathy I hadn't expected. That evening, something inside me shifted. For the first time, I wasn't alone in this. Mom suggested we take things slow, that we didn't need to rush, and just like that, the burden of secrecy lightened. A few days later, she brought home a small bag from the store, just a few simple makeup items, foundation, mascara, and a soft pink lipstick. "Let's start with the basics," she said, her smile a little. As I sat in front of the mirror, Mom's hands worked carefully, showing me how to apply the makeup. The feel of the foundation against my skin was strangely soothing, and as she added a hint of blush, I saw someone in the mirror who wasn't just a boy in a dress, but a person learning to be themselves. Shopping for clothes was the next step. Mom suggested we go together, and I felt a nervous thrill that balanced with a sharp edge of fear. But with her by my side, I began to pick out things that felt like they were meant for me. Soft skirts, simple blouses, and a pair of boots that felt more like armor than footwear. As time went on, I noticed small changes in myself. It wasn't just the way I looked. I was beginning to feel more comfortable in my own skin. I wasn't hiding anymore. But of course, not everything was easy. There were moments of doubt when I wondered if I was doing the right thing. I feared that the world outside would reject me, and sometimes it did, like the awkward glances from strangers or the uneasy whispers we'd catch in passing. But there were also small moments of triumph, a smile from a friendly shop assistant, or a quiet compliment from Mom. These were the things that made it all feel worth it. Still, there was one big hurdle left. Dad. I had yet to tell him, and that was the one fear that stayed with me. The thought of his disappointment, of hearing him say he didn't understand, made my heart race every time I thought about it. But that day, there was no avoiding it. I had spent hours getting ready, carefully choosing my outfit, something soft and delicate, a cream sweater, a floral skirt, and boots that had become my quiet confidence. I did my makeup just like Mom had taught me, perfecting every detail. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see Ethan anymore. I saw me. I walked into the living room, but just as I stepped over the threshold, the door opened. Dad was home. I froze. His eyes locked with mine, and for a moment, everything stood still. His expression was unreadable. No anger. No shock. Just a steady gaze that made my heart race even faster. Dad. My voice was small, fragile under the weight of his stare. Ethan. His tone was low, almost contemplative. There was no anger, no shout. Just his eyes studying me as if trying to make sense of what he was seeing. For what felt like an eternity, he didn't speak. I stood there, the silence between us so thick it was almost suffocating. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest as I waited for him to say something, anything. I don't understand, he finally said, his voice softer now, but I'll try. And just like that, the knot in my stomach loosened just a little. It wasn't the perfect acceptance I had dreamed of, but it was something. It was a start. Thank you, I whispered, my voice cracking as tears welled up in my eyes. I blinked them away quickly. I wasn't ready to break down just yet. Dad didn't reach out, but his gaze softened, as though he were trying to find his way through this new territory. It wasn't perfect and it wasn't easy, but it was a beginning. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I might finally be seen for who I truly was. For the first time, I felt like I was no longer trying to fit into someone else's mold. I wasn't hiding behind expectations, trying to be what others thought I should be. As I stand here today, reflecting on everything I've been through, it feels almost unreal how far I've come. It seems like a lifetime ago when the thought of dressing like this, of truly being myself, filled me with dread. What began as a small act of defiance, an attempt to push against my fears, has grown into something much more meaningful. The clothes, the makeup, they're no longer just something I wear. They are pieces of who I am, fragments of my identity made tangible. I've learned that transformation isn't merely about how we look on the outside, but about carving out our space in the world. I've come to realize that my journey isn't about conforming to anyone else's desires or ideals. It's about understanding and accepting the person I've always been. The road hasn't always been smooth. There have been times when I questioned if I was making the right choices, moments of doubt that crept in. But when I look at myself in the mirror now, I see someone who is unapologetically me. I've stopped hiding, stopped fearing what others might think. Even when my dad couldn't fully understand, he made the choice to try. And that simple act of trying, of showing me that he was willing to understand, has meant more than I can express. Mom has stood by me through it all, offering unwavering support. But I've also learned that it's okay not to have everything figured out right away. Life isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to embrace the journey. Growth isn't instant. It's messy, it's slow, and it's often uncertain. But sometimes, the most important step is just showing up as who you really are, without apology. There's so much left for me to discover, but today, I feel stronger than I did yesterday. More importantly, I feel more myself than ever before. The future doesn't scare me like it used to. There's so much room to explore, to grow, and to live authentically. And that's a future I'm excited to step into.